Thanks for tuning in to A Better World, where we aim to illustrate that today is the greatest time to be alive and show the progress we're making as a civilization. I'm your host, Luis Acevedo, and in today's episode, we're going to be going over an article that I read from World Economic Forum, and it is titled, These Dutch Microgrid Communities Can Supply 90% of Their Energy Needs. Now, a microgrid, for those of you who don't know, is just a smaller scale of an electrical grid. So you see the transformers, the generators, whatever. That is just on a smaller scale. And in this capacity, and what they're doing is all renewable energy for the most part. And it is localized. Typically, you'll find the microgrids in rural areas. And this one is being localized to supply the village in which it's in with their energy. And it is ran independently, and it is run and owned by the village, which is pretty awesome. So with it being localized, it decentralizes it as well, so it is not involved in the government utilities. It is solely on its own, which is a beautiful thing. And what it can do is it can power up, the house for the most part, your heat pump, your electric car, which is a huge thing over in the Netherlands. For those of you who don't know, they primarily, if not exclusively, just use electric cars. And if they don't use electric vehicles, then they are using bikes to get around. And typically you're going to see a lot of solar panels, and just really what we should be moving towards in the future. You're seeing that over there with their energy supplies for both their cars and the way they power things up. Now they're trying to do this with the communities on a smaller scale. And the Dutch Ministry of Economic Affairs and the Netherlands Enterprise Agency are both studying it to see the effects that it's going to have in the long run. And if things do go well, a couple things can happen is that they predict by 2050, if everything goes well and these can be integrated into more communities, so on and so forth, that it can reduce the CO2 emissions released in like the EU area by 80 to 90% by 2050. And also they're hoping that they can integrate it into about half of the households in the EU in that same time frame too. So really good things are happening over there as far as their energy goes. And also I think this is a good example for us to realize that if this does work, then why shouldn't we aim to integrate that into our system? I understand that the fossil fuels and the natural gas, coal, things like that we use to power our infrastructure is important. But if nothing else, if this does work, why shouldn't we try to diversify our portfolio when it comes to energy resources and integrate the microgrid system, so that way not only will it save you and I money, but it'll also decentralize it, which in my opinion is the best part about it. And there is a system that they are introducing or going to introduce, and it's called SIDE, and it's Smart Integrated Decentralized Energy. And what that does is it's going to balance intelligently. It's a machine, so it's going to balance the local supply of energy, so that way it meets the supply and demand and can reduce costs. So that way if there's a surplus, it can either be stored in a battery or it's going to be sent off to somebody else's house. So that way that energy is being used and not wasted, which is a beautiful thing, which also helps with the issue that was there previously when they tried to do this in Germany. I don't know if it was on a larger scale or big or a smaller scale, but I do know that I read an article that they had tried to go completely off of renewable energy. I don't know if it was the whole country, like I said, but I do know it was somewhere in Germany that they tried this. And they had difficulties when there were surpluses and not enough energy. So when there were surpluses, the government was paying people to use more energy. And when there was less energy, the government was restricting the energy usage from people. So kind of intrusive and definitely an issue. But it looks like this issue has been solved with the storage batteries that come with the microgrid. So the storage batteries are already there. The SIDE, the Smart Integrated Decentralized Energy, that's just something that it will do and probably do better than what they're doing now. And with that, this infrastructure will also be a lot cheaper in the long run than what we currently have, because there's no infrastructure upgrade. And not only that, but it can also segue into these communities becoming fully self-sufficient, which is tremendous. I think that would be a beautiful thing. I think that would bring communities closer because your water, your food, and your energy is all supplied by the people that are in your community. And so, in my opinion, it'll kind of make the communities more of a family than anything else. And I think that's pretty important, because individualism is equally as important as collectivism, but we can do more things collectively than individually. And so if we work together on this, beautiful things can happen. And so hopefully things keep going well over there in these Dutch microgrid communities, and good news keeps coming about them. And so I mean, it's really awesome news that we're trying to integrate renewable energy into our everyday lives slowly but surely. I know it's a difficult thing to do because we rely so much on fossil fuels, and it's definitely difficult to leave the past because sometimes we put the past on a pedestal and think the future will never be as good, or it just will never be as good, which is a bad way to look at it. Because typically, as a civilization, we have always progressed to do something better than we did before, and with renewable energy, regardless of your stance on climate change, if nothing else, it's going to help reduce pollutants and at least maybe even a little bit provide cleaner air for your children and their children and you to breathe in. So all really amazing things that can come from this, and it makes me excited because there's also another project, as you've heard, or if you haven't heard in my last episode, what they're trying to do in, I believe, some European countries as well, is use recycled plastic to make their roads. So that way they can, not only help with the plastic issue that we see on the news frequently nowadays, so they'll help with that, and it'll also, hopefully, kind of like this smart integrated decentralized energy system, it'll also save money in the long run, because potholes won't be as consistent, and it will also be cheaper to make in the long run as well. So beautiful things are happening, and we are really, really, really trying to become innovative and really creative in the ways that we're using our energy, the way that we're using our transportation. So really good things are happening. I thought this was a really cool article that I read. I've been doing some research on it a lot lately because it's just a really cool concept. And so hopefully things keep going well and we get good news in a few years, and if things are going well, hopefully we can eventually bring that over here to the United States on a smaller scale and try to integrate that and eventually diversify our energy resources, and hopefully in the future, which we should do, is go completely renewable since we found a way to store it. And so that's the episode for the day. I hope you all enjoyed it. And like always, if you like what you heard or saw, please pass it along to a friend and subscribe to the YouTube channel and on Apple Podcasts. And if you have anything that you would like me to cover that that there's been improvements throughout time, then let me know. You can reach me on my Facebook or my Instagram. So, you all have a wonderful day, and peace.